In this lab, we're going to take a look to see if numbers are odd or even, and this is for 5-minute code lab 6C. If we recall from the math operators, we have the percent symbol, which is going to calculate what the remainder is. Now, in this particular instance, what we're doing is we are establishing to see if the value here is going to yield a true or false. So clearly, if we divide an odd number and there is a remainder, that is going to yield a value of false. And in this particular situation, when we are dividing an even number, the remainder is going to be a 0. We're going to yield a value of true. So now let's go ahead and take a look to see what the coding is going to be for problems 1 and 2. So if we take a look at what our objective is we're going to write a print statement to see if a number is odd or even for number 5. And then for number 2, we're going to take a look to see if 100 is going to be odd or even. So let's take a look at the code and the print statement for problem number 1. And this is where the magic is going to occur with this particular syntax. And then for number 2, we'll do the same to check to see if 100 is odd or even, and the command is going to look like this. So let's go ahead and run the code and see what happens. And then what you see from the output, this particular statement has rendered a false because there is a remainder, and this particular statement has yielded a true because it does not have a remainder. Next, let's look at writing the code if it's odd or even. So there's basically 2 ways to write the code depending on what we're evaluating. So we could evaluate if the number is even, or we could evaluate if the number is odd. So for problem number 3, we're going to code to test if it's even. If it is, then obviously we know that the number is going to be odd. So our syntax will look something along like this. Prompt the user for input. If the number remainder is divisible by 2 and the value is 0, then we know that the number is even, and we print out it's even. Otherwise, we know that the number is going to be odd. Now let's take a look at the code for number 3. I already have information pertaining to what the problem is going to do. So now we'll just simply write the syntax. So first we'll prompt the user, and you notice right here I'm utilizing an input and applying it to unum. And with this one, I'm not doing any kind of significant testing to see if the user had entered a valid number. Then we're going to utilize an if statement. And again, if this condition is true, we're simply going to evaluate that this is an even number. Otherwise, print that it is odd. And then we'll just have a finishing statement. Thank you for playing. Let's go ahead and let me clear the screen. And then we'll run the code and take a look to see what's going on. So determine if the number is odd or even. Enter a whole number. We'll enter 33. And the number is odd. So that's one method. And in both methods, the output is going to be identical. It's just behind the scenes, the coding is going to be slightly different. For problem number 4, we're doing a different test. This time we're going to prompt the user for input, and our statement is going to look like this. So this syntax is going to be different. So if number is not 0, meaning that there is a remainder, then it's going to print odd. Otherwise, we know it's going to be even. Taking a look at the code for this component, and once again, we're going to prompt the user to enter a value. This time, the if statement is going to identify if it is not 0, and we're simply going to print that the number is odd. Otherwise, we know that the number is going to be even, and then we're going to wrap this thing up with just a simple thank you for playing. If we take a look at the code a little bit closer, for problem number 3, you notice that this is that syntax, and for problem number 4, we're doing a different test. So here we're identifying that it's going to be odd, and up here we're identifying that it's even because of how we end up doing the evaluation. Now let's go ahead and let me clear the screen. And now we'll run the code. So enter a whole number, we'll do 33. Number is odd. For this one, problem number 4, we'll enter 44, and we'll get the output that it is 44. So again, the output is going to be the same, it's just the coding behind the scenes is structured slightly differently. All right, and that is it for this particular lab.